Okay, great. So welcome everybody to this coach seminar, Tips for Club Coaches. So this is the first in this particular series of coach seminars. And we ran a couple earlier in the year, and we've now got the next lot of about 6 sessions that you can register for, and a lot of you have already done so. So a reminder that all these sessions will count as part of your coaching education when you get reaccredited. So keep a track of that, and whether people listen live or whether they watch it later, it makes no difference. That's still a part of your education as a coach. So the aim of these sessions is to bring up topics that are of interest to coaches. That we've also included a couple of topics on some issues around coaching that are kind of topics that I think are useful for us to become familiar with. So next week we've got or next 2 weeks, we've got a session on setting up a development squad, and that's something that we're initiating through Croaky New South Wales and the selectors. So that will be the next seminar. There's also a seminar on the player pathway framework of foundation, talent, elite and mastery coming up with a lady from the Office of Sport. And then in December, we're running a session on managing extreme weather. So we've got a bit of a range. Most of it is primarily of interest to coaches, but it's also of interest to other players. So anybody who would like to attend is very welcome to do so. So this evening's session I've got 4 people who are going to talk from their experience of running coaching at the club level. So we've got Rob I from Canberra, who's the coaching coordinator at the Canberra Club. Lynn Graham is from Sutherland, who's been doing quite a bit of coaching out of Sutherland and running some PACE coaching sessions. We've got Brenda Wild from Mount Sugarloaf, who runs coaching sessions at Toronto and other clubs in the Hunter, and has been a state player and just been around a few other jobs in Croaky New South Wales, I seem to think, Brenda. And we've got Peter Freer, who's also from Canberra, who's a very experienced coach, and he and I have both been delivering PACE sessions to clubs around the state. So he'll be reflecting more on his experiences as a club and how you can, I guess, be most effective as a coach, and perhaps think about how you relate to club members in a whole range of scenarios. There'll be opportunities for question and answer. So the speakers, I've said, if you can speak, say about 5, maximum 10 minutes. And then if you have a question that comes up while you're listening to people, if you can use the chat button, it should be at the top of your screen with a little balloon. So please pop something in there, and we'll take questions in the order that they appear in that session. And then we will also try and get some questions from the floor as well. I've anticipated that we will have the questions at the end of everybody speaking. If somebody has something really that they would really like to sort of follow up and clarify, we'll try and fit that in, but mostly the questions will hold till the end, if that's okay with everybody. And then there'll be an opportunity for the presenters to make any last comments and just any reflections, and whether or not a number of topics may come up that we would like to pursue further. So there's an opportunity for us to look to future sessions. So that's how it's all going to run. Everybody happy? Any questions around that? No, excellent. So Rob I from Canberra, who's just been playing and did very well at the, what have you done very well in, Rob, in one of the competitions?
Losing to Peter, I think.
No,
You did that well.
Anyway, Rob's been playing golf croquet and is increasing his prowess all the time, and is our coaching coordinator at Canberra. So over to you, Rob.
Okay, thanks, Kate. Just a bit of background. I guess Canberra's probably quite different to a number of your clubs. We've got 140 members. We play GC, AC and gate ball. We've got 7 active GC coaches and 3 active AC coaches. So we've got quite a range of resources to draw on. I'm the coaching coordinator. I'm not our best coach or our best player by a long shot. And I do some of the coaching, but not all of the coaching. We'll come back to that. I think that's a key thing. We've had a coaching coordinator ever since I started, and a few of them are on this chat. I've been playing for 5 years, and I've been a coach for about 2 years, and I didn't do any coaching for the first year that after I became a coach, because I didn't sort of know where to start. And then I got asked to become coaching coordinator and sort of jumped in the deep end and got going. So I have a background in marathon running. So I did that for most of my adult life. Hard to believe when you see me now, but that's true. And so I'm used to training every day, and I love practicing. There's nothing I find more enjoyable than going hitting croquet balls on a lawn. So we have a range of different things available to our members at different levels. So I'll talk briefly about some of those, and also talk about some of the changes we've put in to address some particular problems that I thought we had when I took over this role. And then I will try to keep to my 10 minutes and finish with a few tips that I thought were really important. So despite having 140 club members, when I took this role, I looked at it and I found that we had 12 players entered our GC handicap singles tournament. So less than 10% of our club members would play in our handicap tournament. We were struggling to get a Div 3 pennants team. We had a Div 1 and Div 2 pennants team, but the Div 3, people didn't want to play in competitions. It was all too hard. And we ran our divisional championships in the first half of the year. We had 25 people playing our divisional championships. So I thought that was a pretty ordinary rollout for people to play in competitions, given we had 140 members. So I set about that, trying to address that as the main thing I wanted to do. When I started, I was very well coached, and there was a sausage machine at Canberra. You started, you got coached, you got into the Div 3 pennants team. We had strong teams. You fairly easily and rapidly moved up into Div 2 and for some of us beyond. And I realised when I looked at it, the last 2 years we've only had one person move from Div 3 to Div 2. And when I was coming through, there was someone triggering to the next division every couple of months, because we were doing much better. So we still had lots of good players at the top end, but the sausage machine wasn't churning people through as much as I would have liked. So I tried to do something to address that. I sat down with a few people and talked about what we should do, and ended up getting our playing committee to endorse a plan for how we were going to try and address that. So a few people had some input to it. And basically what we decided to do, we thought we were doing okay with new members, but then they were then falling into just becoming social players and not really knowing where to go next. We also had coaches who were happy to give their time coaching at multiple different levels, but becoming a bit frustrated, I think, because they found that people would ask them to come along and coach, and then ask them again 2 months later to come back and coach them in the same things again, because they hadn't really made much progress. So what the major thing that we have done in the last year or so is to set up a day for practice. So Sunday mornings was free on our calendar, so we allocated that as our practice day, and made it open to all club members to come along and do that. We started with both AC and GC, so having people doing both, and having some of the sessions when we started were applicable to both AC and GC, and some we split into different lawns for the two codes. There's lots of horrible feedback happening. I'm not sure anyone else is getting that. Anyway, so that over the last.
Everybody can. Sorry, Rob. If everybody can mute themselves if they're not actually speaking, that'd be great. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah. So this year we kicked off in January. We have about half of our Sundays are given over to Croquet New South Wales competitions or our own organised competitions or special days and things like that. But that means we've had about 20 training sessions this year on a Sunday morning for a couple of hours. We've had between I think the smallest number of attendees we've had is 7, and the most we've had is 30 at one time. So my job as coaching coordinator hasn't been to run all those coaching sessions. That would be hard work. I spend my time on emails and phones and try and get people to come along and do things for people. We've tried a variety of different things. I'll probably get to that in a minute, but we've had 2 types of sessions. One is where we've had someone come along and present on a particular topic, largely of their choice. We've had a few requests from people to do things, and they've been well attended. If you want to get people to come along to a coaching session, tell them you're doing jumping. That seems to attract everyone's attention. Either that or put on a barbecue. They're the 2 most successful ways to get people to come to a Sunday morning coaching session. But the other thing we've tried to do is to have some sessions where we make coaches, or at least one coach available, and people are to come along and do their own practice. So, and they can ask questions of a coach on any particular thing that they want help with. So the people who are showing the most improvement are the ones who come along to both those types of sessions, i.e. they're happier to come and practice on their own, and they're probably coming and doing other practice during the week on their own as well. Some people are just happy to come along and be entertained by our coaches sometimes, it feels like, but that's okay. We're happy to keep running those sessions. The sorts of things that we've been... we started with doing both AC and GC, but that it went well for a few weeks, but then we've got less AC coaches, and the main person who was driving it was Kerry Ann Orwin, and she's moved to Victoria, so she wasn't available to do AC coaching, and so it was falling on a couple of people to do all of it, and the attendance wasn't fantastic, so we've now just switched to Sunday mornings being GC, but we are about to kick off for twilight AC coaching during daylight saving, so that's starting for us now. And the advantage of doing that is we're having that in the evening, so we're trying to get some of our people who work, some younger members, to come along and do to participate in the AC coaching. The sort of topics we've run over Sunday morning coach, so it's open to everyone, but it's largely been attended by our Div 3 and starter players, although not totally. Some people just come along and practice anyway. But we've run topics on how to train and do drills, positioning, tactics for Div 3. We did jumping. We've had people come along and analysing your swing and trying to get you to make sweet contact. Around the hoop and in-offs type stuff was popular. We've run stuff on working out what your success rate is at running a hoop from a particular point on the lawn. We've worked on roqueing, preparing for competitions, and doing some non-centre ball clearances. So in amongst that, those topics, we've also introduced a few small competitions. So one of the big issues for people is transferring or getting themselves into a competition, because it seemed to going from playing socially to potentially playing in a penance game where you have to play a best of 3, or going off to Nowra or something to play in competition where you have to play for 3 days or something. So we've introduced a few competitions as well. So end of last year, we ran a novice competition for people who hadn't participated in anything. So that was popular, and we're doing it again this year. We've had a couple of friendlies with other clubs nearby, with Belconnen and Southern Highlands at the Div 3-4 type level. And we ran one competition for 13 plus doubles competition. So some of them were a senior player, a 0, partnered with a 12 or a 14, somewhere around that. We had some 6s and 7s combining to make 13. So we ran a competition like that just to encourage it, a Sunday morning, a knockout, just to encourage people to play in the competitions. And we'll probably try and do some more of that as well. Running in parallel with our Sunday morning intro training, we also have all along run a Div 1-2 training on a Wednesday afternoon as well. So that you had to be at least a Div 2 player to be able to come along, and it was largely focused on trying to prepare our penance teams and trialling doubles combinations and that sort of stuff. When I first started going along, Peter Freer ran it, and I think he got a bit sick of having to come up with something each week. Then Kate ran it for a while. We've tried, and I've taken over trying to run it, but it's I don't think we've found the right sort of scenario that actually works. Having one person running it all the time is really good for everyone else, but it's not so great for the one person who's running it. Trying to share the load round, you get very variable input, and if whenever you try and ask, so who wants to do some topic next week and run some session, you suddenly find that people just sort of stare at their feet and turn away and whatever. So we've had trouble. There's a couple of people who've done a lot and a lot of people who haven't done much. So in trying to be a self-directing coaching team or whatever. And part of that, I think, is the people who come in Division 2 don't think I certainly didn't think I should be trying to plan a session for Kate and Peter when they were playing at national and international level. It didn't seem quite right to be trying to plan a training session, but I'd be interested for other people's ideas of how they try and get more people to participate to take the load off. So
thanks. Yeah, thanks, Rob. Are you how you?
I was just going to give my takeaways, and then I'm finished.
All right,
so my takeaways are: you should have a plan for what you want to do. So sit down and work out what the gaps in your club are that you want to fill. Having something like a coordinator and a system where things are happening on a particular day reduces the reliance on any one person. So if that person goes away, the system should cope and still roll on. So you're more likely to get a long-lasting type system. You need to be flexible and adapt as you go, because some things work and some things don't, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try them. You should try them anyway. Try and make it as much fun as possible. Practice should be fun. And the most important thing is to take every opportunity you can to thank the people who volunteer their time to do their coaching. You need to keep your coaches on site. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. I think your takeaway tips are really great, and hopefully there can be some more discussion and building on that. So the next person who's going to talk is Lynn Graham from Sutherland. So Lynn, take it away.
Okay, can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
No.
Thumbs up.
Because I've had problems with this. Okay. Look, none of this will be new to any of you, I'm sure. A lot of what Rob said is what we would do too. I'm a very average player myself, so I wouldn't even think of giving tips to the good players. But I noticed in a couple of years ago that the very new players had finished their training and there was no formal pathway for them to improve their skills apart from turning up at club days and hoping that they picked up something from other people. But it seemed to me there was a willingness among new players to learn. They just didn't know how. So basically, I wanted to encourage new players to get involved and to get better and to get involved in competitions and things like that. So I just kind of took it on myself to start something. I wanted to persuade people to play. We started a novice competition, which I didn't start, but that was going, and it's going very well each year. I wanted to persuade them to play penance, and our there's a local competition in our area, which some of you know of, called Makara, where there's 3 people in a team. They play each of the others in the other team in one game and so on, and it's in divisions. So I wanted to encourage them to do that. So I started doing Sunday morning 2+ hour sessions. Started with 4 people. We're a very small club, so we've only got 40 or 50 members. Gradually, 2 people put their hands up to help me out of the blue. I didn't ask, but they did, and now they're level 1 coaches, so that's good. And I totally agree with Rob. You've got to spread it around a bit. I've been away. I've been in Africa for the last few weeks, and it kept going quite well without me, which I'm very happy about. So now there's a pool of, say, 8 to 10 players that turn up each week. They absolutely demanded we continue in. Last year, I started off by just trying to get them ready to play competition, even though we knew that they wouldn't do very well. You've got to play before you start improving. So we did different skills things each week, and then the week before they were starting to play Penance, I did a full simulation of a Penance day, to the extent of bringing food to show them what you did, making them bring handicap cards, and most of them didn't have one, so we had to get that, and so we simulated filling in everything. We simulated the time that you had for a warm-up, the whole thing. We knew that they weren't going to do terribly well, but we wanted them to be prepared for at least the organisation, so that they would understand that. So we did that. We haven't had to do that this year, of course. So now they're wanting to come each week, and it's been very slow progress, and I've felt very demoralised at times, but the last few weeks I've started to feel much better about it. And last week we actually had a new person come, and everyone could see how much better they were than her, and so that really encouraged all of them, and it also encouraged her, because she wants to keep coming and get better. So what we do each week, I'll usually I pick a skill or a strategy or some rules each week, and we target that for up to, say, half an hour. It could be things we've noticed from the last match. For example, this week they played a Makara match, and the hoop running made me cringe. So, and them too. So we practiced, a yard out, 2 yards out, 3 yards, and so on. And I gave them all 4 balls and a hoop and said, go for it. And I walked around sort of giving suggestions and things. They all played absolutely brilliantly. And then when we played a game afterwards, nobody showed any improvement at all, but that's all right. It happens very gradually. I also this week, I often do a couple of scenarios. So this week I decided to use the secondary balls, because apparently some people are scared of them. And so I placed them where I wanted and said, okay, you're the green ball. What will you do next? That kind of thing. When they'd suggest why, I'd go, well, why did you do that? And then what are the repercussions of that, and so on. So we talked about that. I was really pleased yesterday to see that they forgot I was there for a minute when we were doing this, and started discussing with one another. Oh, why did you, what? I was very pleased with that. So anyway, that's the sort of thing. And then we always finish with a game. Sometimes, depending on time, it might be a 2-ball game. And yesterday also, after they'd done their hoop running, I then ran a competition where, okay, put the ball 1 metre in front of 1 yard in front of the hoop, and as you missed the hoop, you dipped out, and then we put the thing back to 2 yards, and so on, till someone won. So that got quite competitive. All right. Often you feel demoralised, but when they've played matches afterwards, it suddenly started to sink in what they should be doing, what sort of strategies work, and so on. Sometimes it doesn't, it's gradual. Sometimes we'll do a rules session as well, just one rule. Found out people don't understand the offside rule, which I didn't understand why. But anyway, we've done things like that, just something small each week. One match, they had a very pedantic referee this year who pulled them up on absolutely everything, and they haven't forgotten. It was actually quite good, because they haven't forgotten how they'd forgotten everything they knew. They felt stupid because he'd pointed out things to them, and they thought, oh, we know that, but we didn't do it. So one of them said this week that they've remembered this. One of them said to me yesterday, I did 3 pushes, 2 crushes and a double tap and I missed an offside that week and I'll never do it again. So, that's good.
That's it, yeah. Good feedback, Lynn.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we've had an input from, I don't do all of it. I've had input from a Division 1 player who they place much more value on what he has to say than what I have to say. And it's really good when he says the same thing I've been rattling on about for a year. So I felt quite good about that. On Sunday, I asked have I got another couple of minutes?
Yeah, so maybe one more minute.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah. On Sunday, I asked everyone where they've improved in the last few months and where they needed to improve. And this is the sort of things I got. Now I know the rules. I'm confident to jump. I know my best distance for running a hoop, and outside that, I consider other options. Don't be scared to call a referee. I've got rid of the wibbly wobbly backswing. Improvements, they were specifics like I need to stop pushing the ball when I get nervous. Predictably, in practice, I run hoops from everywhere, and when I play a game, I can't run a hoop at all. I know I'm still weak on strategy. And this one, the more I know, the more I don't know. So I'm very pleased with that. And what I'm very pleased with too is that they now critique each other. And a couple of them have actually triggered to lower handicaps, which has made the rest of them and them want to do more. So it's very basic, but that's ours.
That's great, Lynn. I love the way you've got that interaction with your players and kind of identifying what it is that they feel good about and what they would like to work on. I think that's great. Okay, Brenda Wild, you're our next from all the way from Mount Sugarloaf or thereabouts. Talk to us.
Thanks, Kate. I'm sort of, my notes are going down a totally different path to what the other two have done. I just, you know me, I like to be different, Kate.
Yep.
What I found is, for me personally, I prefer to coach either brand new players or Div 3 players, because I found over the years, a lot of Div 3 players never really improved. They sort of stayed around the same sort of area that they were doing beforehand because they thought, well, they might have got 2 out of 5 shots that they wanted and they thought that was pretty good. Because I also found, it's very difficult to change bad habits. So if you can get the new players into good habits to start with, you don't have to change them. And I found that they have improved better than trying to change a bad habit. I also find that if it's someone who's totally brand new, has hardly picked up a mallet, may have just walked in off the street when they've seen people playing, I find you need to take them one-on-one by themselves to explain the whole game, the hoop order, the ball orders and such. You can't include those people in a coaching session because you'll spend more time dealing with them than you would with the people who have been playing for a bit longer and know the little bit of the basics. I find too that I keep my groups to probably 6 to 8, because once you get more people than that, you can't spend enough time helping people. You'll find too that if you put them into pairs, one person might have been playing for longer than the other, and they'll try and give them ideas and tips. And that's where the bad habits just come back into it again, because they're not always good at what they're doing. They think they are, but they're not. And it's when you start talking to people more one-on-one, you can get them to do what you want them to do, and they will start to improve. I had one guy, I've been doing my coaching mainly at Toronto Club. Marion Davies is doing the hub there, and she keeps telling me to come and do a coaching session. So more than happy to do that. But I've had some feedback from a couple of new players who were at that, and I saw them a couple of months later, and they were so excited because they had started to improve. They were improving more from doing that than just sort of hitting around at home at normal club games. So I also start off with, excuse me, just an observation. If anyone has seen coaches, professional coaches who have been interviewed after their professional sporting team, being football, cricket, netball, soccer, whatever, if they've had a bad game, the coaches will say, oh, we just need to go back to the basics. And that's what I keep telling all my new players, just go back to the basics, get your basics right, and things will start coming. Kate can probably agree with me that when we've played in top games, you get a little cocky. I'm not sure about Kate, but I know I do. I get a little bit cocky, thinking, I can do this. This is easy. And all of a sudden you muff every shot. In my head, go back to the basics. And once I start going back to the basics, then things start to happen and you start to get more confidence in what you're doing. So I really stress to the new players and the Div 3 players, get yourself into a nice basic routine, do that right, and things will start to improve, because no doubt all of us in our clubs have got members who have been in a Div 3 player for a long, long time and they haven't improved. And you want people to improve, because once they improve, they start to really enjoy their croquet. They talk to lots of people about how much fun croquet is, and you start to get new people coming into the sport, which is what we're all keen to do. We need more people to have our sport progressing. So my normal basics is my stroke routine, which is, we all should be doing it. It's grip, stalk, stance, and swing. And it's amazing how many people don't do all of that. You know, I get people to say, get players, go back at least 2 or 3 meters. Get yourself so you've got a nice imaginary line from your ball to wherever you want your target to go. I personally, if I've got a tough shot, I'll go back 4 or 5 meters to get myself into that routine and get my head into the game. Because you find a lot of people, they'll walk up to the ball, they'll put their mallet down, thinking, oh yeah, I've got this all right. Then they'll wiggle their bum or they move their shoulders, their feet, and wonder why all of a sudden they've missed the ball. They haven't got the centre of the ball all sorted, which is where, when you're back doing your stalking, is where you come through to it. It's just, to me, it's, if you can get all those basics right, life does improve, your croquet improves, you're really happy, because just about every ball you hit, you want to hit, you hit, the hoop you run, it makes you feel good. Another thing I have found is you find people saying, oh, if you miss a shot, oh, you lifted your head. Well, it's actually, you lift your eyes more than your head, because once you've hit the ball, you want to follow the ball. A saying I have heard around is, hear the hit or see the miss. So if you've kept your eyes down on the ball and you've hit your ball and you're looking down at your ball, if you keep looking down there, you will hear it hit what you want to hit. Naturally, not if it's, you know, quite a distance from you, but if you lift your eyes up to follow the ball, all of a sudden you're missing it, because your angles are all changing. You've lifted your head, your chest has come up and your arms are doing all sort of things. So I keep stressing to my lot, hear the hit or see the miss. And they've sort of started saying that themselves, so that they keep their eyes down. They either watch the back of their own ball or even the blade of grass underneath it. What I've got here in my notes that I've actually got in block letters, and it's, again, something I say to all the people in my coaching workshops: never, ever walk backwards. It's a safety issue, I know, and it's, people don't necessarily think about it much. But can you imagine if you're not 100% sure of where, particularly new players, what's around you, you start walking backwards because you think, I'll go walk backwards to get into my stalk. You've got hoops could be close by, you've got balls close by, you've got lots of things around you that you're not aware of. You know, it's, once you've been playing for a while, yeah, you get to be aware of where you are on the lawns, but new players don't. And it's just, to me, I'm sorry to say, but we're all at an age, our reflexes aren't very quick. If we do happen to trip over something, there's every chance we're going to possibly break anything. You know, wrists, arms, hips, knees. So I stress to my lot, and they hear it all the time: never, ever walk backwards. I had a bit of it in one of the coaching sessions. I thought, you know what, I'm aware of where I am and what's around me. So I just started walking backwards. Well, the number of players who pulled me up on it was brilliant because they're aware of what they can't do, so they're pushing it to me. So it's just one of the things with me. I'm just so cautious. I don't want anyone to fall over because I don't really want to have to do the paperwork, and I don't want to have to call an ambulance, and I don't want to have to hear them moaning and groaning. So please, for coaches, can you please stress to people to not ever, never, ever walk backwards? It's just too dangerous. I know it's a lovely sport and all that, but there are some issues that we have, and that is one of them. Kate, that's sort of all I had down to say.
Great.
Because I was trying, like you wanted us to keep to a bit over 5 minutes. I thought I'd cut it right down.
Thank you very much. And I think your reminder about the basic elements is something that you can use in all layers of coaching. So it's really interesting that it's not something where you only teach beginner people the shot routine. It comes up every single coaching session, I think. And safety routine's great reminder about that, because that's part of our responsibility as a coach, is to check for hazards and to make sure the players are really aware of it. So thank you very much for those tips. And so we've got Peter Freer, I think, who's going to talk next.
Okay. So I'm probably just repeating some of the things, or reinforcing some of the things other people have said. Including, I think Lynn mentioned the value of having someone else come in and reinforce what you've been saying. And we do that at Canberra. We had Trevor Black come in, ran a really great session. And afterwards, people said, he was great. He said the same sort of things you say. And so it's just useful to get confirmation that, you as a coach are saying things that other people say. Like Brenda, I think the most important thing is to get players at all levels to have a consistent process. You can't control the outcome of a shot, but you can control how you approach the shot and execute it. And, that's the full thing. Stalk, get your line ready, make sure you have a backswing, keep your head down, follow through after the ball, and don't look up. And players at all levels, you see it I see it in top tournaments. You see it at World Championships. People who forget and they start looking up because they're so keen to see what's happened. One thing that's stood me in great stead as a coach is you can see some weird stuff out there, but if it works for someone, don't change it. Don't get into changing their swing just because it's crooked. We've got people, my swing isn't straight, but I've managed to hit the ball reasonably well. And so don't change anything that's working. I mean, if people are really fussed about it, then you might have to investigate, talk to them about how it's going and do some video work. And I really commend that new system, Canopia, that Gareth Denya's promoting. I keep meaning to get around to using it, but it looks really, really useful about analysing people's swing. Something that Rob mentioned, but I'd like to reinforce, is coaching resources tend to be limited. There's a sort of bottomless demand out there for more coaching, especially one-on-one stuff. You have to pace yourself as a coach, and it's particularly silly if you find yourself wasting effort on people who just aren't going to do their bit. So what you need is a contract between the coach and the player where, you're going to try and help them improve, but you're expecting them to go and work on, whatever is the issue, so that next time you see them, they've actually progressed or thought about it or have questions. You want that sort of effort. The last thing you want is put effort in yourself and then find that they just want you to do the same thing again and again and again. So it's like the old 80-20 rule. You should be putting 80% of your effort into people who are going to work with you and so you can progress together. You can sort of do a bit of coaching for the rest, but you don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I mean, that's brutal, but you have to do it to save yourselves. I'd like to emphasize that there are basically 3 areas. When you're starting, it's all about skills, how to hit a ball, how to run a hoop, how to get the distance you need. Once you're beyond that, then you get into tactics. And so, competitive players need to know about tactics. And there's a range of levels of that. You know, there's the basic things like don't put your ball next to their ball, and things like that. But then, you know, once you get up to state team level, there's a lot of trickier tactics, like how much are you going to try promoting a ball from one hoop to another and things like that. But in the end, the top level of coaching is all about the mental side of it. You know, most players at state and national championships have got fairly similar skills. Most of them have got reasonable tactics. It's all coming down to who can keep their head together, particularly when things get tense and, you know, you're feeling under the pressure. And you can see examples of that if you look at the YouTube videos of people who just, you know, there's so much pressure that the game just falls apart a bit. And that's all you need. At the top level, you know, 5% either way will make a huge difference. The final thing is that coaching, I've got a tendency to coach everywhere I go. So, you know, if I'm playing in a game, a social game, I'll tend to want to start coaching the people around me. You need to ask them whether they want to be coached, because there's no point harassing people and making them feel like they're not playing very well because you're trying to help them all the time. So you need to sort of be fairly clear about asking whether people want to be coached, and if so, how much, or whether they just like to get on with the game and just, you know, keep it in silence. So those were the main points I wanted to cover. I'd be interested if anybody had any questions. And I think, Kate, we're now going into a question and answer session.
We are. Thank you very much, Pete. That was really helpful and based on a lot of experience at a whole range of levels. So we don't have any questions on the chat room. Have people got some comments or some questions that they would like to raise in person? And if you can raise your hand, that would be helpful, because I've only got one screen at a time that I can see you on. If we haven't got any obvious questions, one of the things that I wanted to emphasize was, I think it's useful for us to be aware of, as I think what Peter's talking about in terms of who you coach and how much effort you put into coaching. I think it's a really good thing for coaches to reflect on. And we've heard some suggestions about ensuring that you set up a program rather than a personal fiefdom when you're a coach. Sometimes there's only one coach in a club, or perhaps only one person who's confident or prepared to do coaching. I really encourage you to, as Lynn was talking about, that you identify other people who are interested. They don't have to be the best players, but if they've got good communication skills, they're interested in how the game works, and they're prepared to put in the time, to bring along some other coaches. So make sure you're not alone in your club, and make sure you have what your barriers, what your boundaries are. So I know Peter and I have often discussed this, that people, you know, can come and ask questions one-on-one, and that's great. But don't get sucked into becoming someone's personal coach. That's not actually what your job is as a coach of a community organisation. There are some people who will pay to coach you, that will, you know, charge you. Alison Sharp will give you a private lesson, pay her money, and it's all good. So I think if you decide to take on a mentor, that's your choice, but you need to be sure, as Peter said, that they're going to put in the work and that you have a goal for that player. You're not doing it simply because they ask you. And when I find people ask me questions as a coach, then I'll go, that's a really good question. Let's take that to the next coaching session, so that what you're telling people can have a greater benefit than a one-on-one benefit all the time. And some people who ask you questions and they ask you the same question, there's no sign that they've actually improved or they may have done some work on it, but it just may be where they're at with their croquet, or other people haven't practiced. then you know I'm actually not going to spend a lot of time with this person. So be polite. Encourage them to attend coaching sessions. Don't get sucked again into trying to fix the unfixable player. So that's just some kind of reality checks with you as a coach. And I don't think we should feel bad about doing that. Setting boundaries, it's really important. We don't want you to all wear out and not keep doing it. The other thing I was going to say was just a bit of an ad for the PACE coaching sessions. So I've developed some programs at the foundation level, and the most demanded one we've had is golf croquet, but we've also run association croquet and ricochet classes at the foundation level. And for the golf croquet, I've got a booklet which gives you a suggested lesson plan for a foundation level player. So foundation level will cover from beginner through to a competent club player. So it is quite a broad spectrum, and we're probably gearing it at the Division 3 player, someone who knows how to play, but may not have developed their skills to extent, or may be keen to learn more. So the PACE booklets, if you would like to run a session at your club, so there's a lesson plan and there's a recommended set of drills, and there's a little bit of background information about how the whole player pathway system works. I'm very happy to send people a booklet and they can use it. I can send it to you electronically, or I can send you some hard copies. And I'm very happy for people to run the session at the club themselves. And don't forget, you can also contact me and ask if we can supply a senior coach. And sometimes you may not need that kind of coaching program at your club specifically, but it's always good to have an additional set of drills, some ideas about what kinds of areas that you might get people to work on, so that you're not having to think it up yourself. So I'm very happy for people to get a coach in, and sometimes having your coaches watch a coaching session is a really good way of encouraging and building people's confidence. So please get in touch with me if you would like to follow that up, and if you've got any suggestions about other things that you would like to learn. Okay. So I've got Peter Freer's got his hand up. Please, Peter Freer.
I've been reading the chats while you're going. Can I just address the one that Penny's raised about how do you keep your interest as a coach up? And that's a tricky one because it can wear down on you. And part of it is what you were just saying about having some barriers and trying to pace yourself. One of the things I found was the reason I was pushing Div 3 Pennants so much was it's a really enjoyable experience, both as a coach and a participant, because you get to travel to interesting places like Nowra and Jamberoo and stuff. You usually stay overnight and you get to know people fairly well. And so, it's a bonding learning experience. Plus, you can get in a fair bit of coaching in the preparation and during the post action reports on the way home, where you just talk about what happened and what you might want to think about doing differently next time and stuff like that. So, those actual trips can be a really good way of coaching, and they're pretty good fun because, you get to know the people really well.
Mm.
Does that help, Penny?
Good points, Pete. Yeah, does that help, Penny? And I've got a few people saying, yep, send me a booklet, which I will follow up and make sure I do. The other thing I was going to say was John Park will be giving one of the seminars, I think, in about a month's time. And he's going to talk about working with the player as a coach. So the current, thinking around being a coach is moving from the probably didactic method where the coach is the keeper of all knowledge and stands out the front of a group and imparts information to them. And again, Penny, sometimes you're kind of telling the kind of same stuff that you've said for quite a while in getting them to learn. The current method of coaching talks about you walk alongside the players, and it's particularly so when you've got people who you are setting off on a pathway, but it's about identifying what their needs are, I guess what their constraints are, how they find it really useful to learn something. I know Peter Landry told me a story about when he was coaching the world teams, and Robert Fletcher was first of all in the team, and he asked them how they would like to receive their information about coaching, and he wanted to have team sessions, and Robert Fletcher sent him an email, said, just send me in writing what you want me to do and I'll do it. If you need me to turn up to practice for part of the team thing, I'll do that too, but that's not how I learn best. So Pete was going, okay, there you go. So for some people, just a list of this is the skills you need, this is the drills you should be doing. And they go away and practice by themselves. Happy, Larry. Other people really find being the group dynamics is really helpful, and they get encouraged when they compare themselves with others. So we're hoping in that session to start looking at that area, to maybe do a few scenarios about, this is the coaching situation. How would you deal with it? How might you bring your players along? How might you, make learning something that they can actually take on board more easily. So I think it's really useful for us as coaches to be thinking about how we coach as well as what we coach. Rob, I think you've got your hand up.
Still get your mic on off.
Unmute yourself, Rob.
Oh, he knows what to do. He's just looking for the button, which is...
Yeah, there we go. Mum, it moved from the bottom to the top. Anyway, I found it. That's following on from what Peter said, but also leads into what Kate said in answering Penny's question. When I was being coached by Peter in Div 3 Pennants, we had a great time, but we got a group who got what Peter did was terrific, but amongst ourselves, we got our own energy going by having a group of people who probably ended up coaching each other, and possibly badly, and learning bad habits. But in terms of allowing Peter to do other things, he didn't have to come along and coach us. He knew that we would turn up and practice and do stuff, and then just call him when we needed help. And trying to get that going then leads to what Kate was saying about the group dynamic. It takes the pressure off the coach if you can get the group self-directing almost, which is what I was alluding to when I was talking about our Div 1 training. What I'm interested in is how you maintain that self-direction type stuff. What Penny's question is, a coach is getting worn down by this. How do you keep it going? And it's by having the coach being just part of the group that's actually running the show. They're not actually necessarily running the whole thing themselves. The drive's coming from the people who are being coached rather than a top-down type approach.
Is there anything you'd like to say, Penny, regarding that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Karen. Osman's got a large number of people playing, and we're about to take 20 newbies on. So we're even getting more. We're up to most probably nearly 170 members. Now, I took the newbies on for 6 or 8 weeks. And as I said, what I was trying to say was at the end of 6 or 8 weeks, I couldn't do it anymore. I was just repeating the same thing over and over again till I finally said I can't do it. We've just tried to get our Div 3 players into a coaching program with Rosie, who's offered to do a coaching program. So we did it on the basis that everyone's got to pay, hoping that will encourage those people. We've got 5 people, out of the whole of our Div 3 players that are interested. It's demoralising. We
Mm.
do regular coaching sessions for all the newbies. Most of our Div 3 players, I doubt, would take anything from me or any of our coaches as far as what they're doing right or wrong is concerned. I mean, one person, I said to him, you know, you're raising your whole body every time you hit a ball. He said, Bob Berry told me that. And I said, well, I'm telling you, he still does it. I mean, it just drives me up the wall. I get very frustrated with it. Sorry.
We hear you, Penny. One of the things that I did, Penny, was to we're talking to Rob about the different divisions, and we had a Division 2 sort of practice session, and the Division 3 players felt left out. Said we want our own practice session. So what we ended up doing was to say, if you are wanting to play in the Division 3 pennants, and at this time, there will be coaching leading up to it. So I made it limited, 6 weeks, 6-week program for people who signed up for pennants. And I focused on that because, as I've said, if you've got people who've been playing a while and everyone wants to be coached, when you go to the United States, they're all in country clubs and everybody wants to be coached. Most of them won't improve. So those paid coaches find it quite challenging, as my understanding. But I think limit the time, make it specific, and give them a goal. And if people are not prepared to sign up to those things, then you can say, I'm sorry, I'm happy for you guys to do practice, train together. I can give you some drills. Please go away, and I'm sure you'll improve if you practice. But if you really want intense coaching, this is how it will happen. So I think I hear what you're saying.
It's very frustrating. Anyway, the session was good. I got some pointers out of it about coaching sessions and some ideas about different ways of doing things. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Excellent. All right.
Okay, Penny,
I've found
that success and failure have been really good reasons for people to improve. We had a novice competition and one of them won and one of them felt she should have won.
Yep.
And so both of them, for different reasons, got energised, and then they passed it on to other people. And then when they started playing pennants and they got murdered in a game, that was another good energiser because they didn't want to get murdered again. And then when they won a game, it all just came together and they all started really trying to get better and better. So the thing is to get a competition of some sort, I think.
Yeah. I like the way you talked about having a competition at the end of the session, whether it was a short game or whether it was how many hoops can you run. I think that's, some really good suggestions there, Lynn. Thank you. All right. Any other comments or questions before we conclude the session for this evening? I've got everybody's note about who would like an electronic copy, and I can probably actually send you all the Foundation Golf Croquet one. The booklets for the other codes are not as well developed, but I'm happy to share them if people would like. So I think I may have sent one to you, Petula, for gate ball. But I can show you where it is at the moment. Yeah, because it's we need to get some more printed. Doug, you've got a comment you want to make?
Firstly, thanks very much to all the presenters. I can relate to Peter and Rob, and our focus at the moment is to try to establish a Div 1 pennants team. And one of the things that I'm having difficulty with, and everybody's mentioned it, is getting people to be part of the contract and practice themselves and note their their results. But having said that, we have had a great deal of success with our Div 3 penance teams. Now we've just got to try and get our other Div 3 players to step up to the mark, so those Div 3 players from this year can move into Div 2. I'm equally frustrated, as Penny mentioned, about players who expect the coach to make them improve, and they keep forgetting about how much they've got to put in themselves, and yeah, so that makes it frustrating.
Yeah.
But I'm really keen on trying to promote our better Div 2 players into a Div 1 penance side, and yeah, we just need to go from there. But I don't think the PACE program's not at that level yet, is it?
Not yet. We do have a talent level program, but yeah, there's probably more work to be done on that part of it, Doug. But yeah, so I'm hoping next year that we'll be better prepared for the next stage of the pathway programs. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Peter Freer.
Well, sometimes, Doug, sometimes you just have to sell it on the basis that it's a development exercise. Put your toe in the water in Div 1. Don't expect to win. Just go out there and have a good experience.
Yep. And Rob mentioned that.
Back to Claire. Sorry.
We may even have, 5 handicap and 6 handicap players in our Div 1 team, and use that as an experience and go that way.
Yeah.
But
going back to Claire, who asked about social players who don't want to appear to participate. In the end, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink.
Yes.
So, you try and encourage people to, try new things and cross the competition line. And they often find that they quite get quite energized about it, to pick up what was people were saying before, Lynn. But in the end, if they don't want to play, they don't want to. I mean, Canberra's got about 17 Div 1 players, and we're flat getting one team out of it.
Yeah.
So, you do what you can.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Brenda Lee has asked about covering the role of the coaching coordinator. I'm just aware we're just over the hour, but maybe we'll make this the last comment. Rob, do you want to talk about what your role is as the coaching coordinator?
I think in our rules it says to prepare a calendar of events for coaching for the year. So it's pretty broad, so you can do what you like with it. But basically, contact all the coaches and make sure they're happy to be available. We put a list up on the board saying which coaches are available and their contact details, and that's been used a bit, I think. But then I guess attend some of our social sessions and ask around and see what people want, and then what they want and what you're able to produce. I guess you try to fill the gap between that. But it's certainly not to do all the coaching. But I guess for our Sunday coaching, I tried to guarantee we'd have someone there. So I try and get someone for each Sunday. And if we have a Sunday that doesn't have someone to come along and do the coaching, I'll bring the backstop to go along and do that. But also then you're responsible for coordinating new coaches coming in. You get responsibility for our new starters. Doesn't mean to say you coach the new starters. You just need to arrange for someone to be available to run our coaching for new starters. And then the sort of thing that Peter referred to as well, we have someone from outside coming to do coaching, just doing the liaison with that. So it's a lot more liaison with We're a relatively small community, so it's liaising with the people who you think might be able to provide something into club and negotiating to get a lawn, and then if you get someone to come from far away to do some coaching for you, you got to rally a crowd as well to get people along, which is usually easy enough to do. But the emphasis would be, it's not to do the coaching, it's to try and get other people to do the coaching, but to be there to back up and help and make sure they've got what they need when they come to do coaching for you.
It's probably useful to note, Rob, that Cam's got a playing committee separate to its general committee. I'm not sure that all clubs do that, and the coaching coordinator is a pretty integral part of that playing committee. So you've got the club captain, the coaching coordinator. You normally have a code coordinator for GCAC and Gateball on that playing committee, as well as the president. So the playing committee is very much involved with making the draws happen, coordinating the events that are run, both club events as well as New South Wales events, and then, as Rob said, providing a coaching framework for the club members, and kind of, identifying where the priorities lie. So it is part of the sort of structure of the club, so that they're not just off on their own kind of doing it. They do need to be keyed in with what the playing committee's on about and kind of participate in that side of things. Yep. Okay. All right. We might call it quits so you can all go and have your dinner. Thank you so much for attending. I hope you enjoyed the session. Look forward to catching you at the next one, and I'll send you those electronic copies of our booklets. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks,
Thank
Kate.
you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.